Hello and welcome back to REV Endurance Sports, and this is going to be an educational video, I guess, on nutrition. And this can go many different ways. I do a lot of testing with my own personal nutrition, with my body, just so I can just experiment and see what's going on. So I will give you two examples before I go into the discussion that I have planned for today. So on Saturday, I did a 200K ride, so 125 miles, and it was fairly flat. It only had like 5,000 feet of climbing, so I don't know, 1,400 meters of climbing. And the issue was more of the winds, right? So I went northbound for about 63 miles, turned around and came southbound. Northbound tailwind, southbound headwind. That's usually the opposite of the prevailing winds here in Southern California. So on the northbound leg, I purposely did not take in any calories. So for the first 63 miles, little over the 3 hours and some change, whatever it was sub 4 hours. And I didn't take in any nutrition. I didn't take in any fluids. I didn't take in any calories, pocket foods or anything. I did that on purpose. I had a tailwind, so I was like, okay, well, and then also I just, like I said, I like to test my body. On the return, I started fueling. I had 700 calories in each bottle, and I had my nutrition product in there. Now this nutrition product does not have electrolytes, does not have BCAAs, doesn't have protein, doesn't have fat, doesn't have anything other than straight carbs. And it's a very easy to digest carbohydrate and easy to mix carbohydrate drink. I guess some people are using some scratch product that they have to use a blender for. I'm like, what? That's ridiculous. So I had this and then electrolytes in my bottles, 700 calories in each bottle. And then I used that for the return. Now, by contrast, so that was Saturday. So Monday, Christmas Day, I went out with Jessica. We did another, 65 miles, so 105K, I guess. And that was 5,000 feet of climbing on that one. So, half the distance of the ride on Saturday, a lot more climbing, and just really steep kickers, and then some headwinds and tailwinds. And I didn't fuel. I didn't take any water with me. I mean, I had bottles, but I didn't drink any water. I didn't take in any calories on purpose. Now, also on the Saturday ride, I call that a no-no ride, which was the same thing for Monday. And that is no stops for no reason. It's not proper English, but that's what I call it, a no-no ride. Instead of no any, just sounds silly. So no stops for any reason. So it's a no-no ride. And so I didn't take any calories in yesterday. Zone 3, Zone 4 ride. Saturday was Zone 2. And I felt great. As a matter of fact, Jessica attacked me on the last roller to the house, and I had to do a 10 watt per kilogram sprint of about 12 seconds. And I'm not a sprinter. I'm an endurance guy. But anyway, she's just tough, and so I had to sprint and challenge her as she was challenging me. Anyway, now the discussion. This came about because as I was talking about this product on my channel, the gentleman, we will call him John Smith, purchased 2 containers from me. And so that was last week. And this week I said, hey, how's it going? Or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Hey, how's it going? Do you have any questions on how to use the product? Basically was the the genesis of the call. It was like, okay, I just want to see if he's got the product. I know he had the product, I'm sorry. Has he had a chance to use it? So what I want to do now is talk about his or our discussion, because it's a real life situation. So the gentleman is, I think, let me check again. Yeah. So he's 5'10", 240 pounds. And I asked him, what do you typically do for fueling? And then he said, well, you know, water in the fig bar. I said, well, how many hours, or actually how long, or something like that. And he said 44 miles. And he said something about, 2 hours or so. And it got me thinking, okay, let's talk about how the body recognizes your sporting activity, bike, run, swim, so whatever. It only knows duration and intensity. So for example, 44 miles at 3 hours, low intensity, is a completely different caloric expenditure than 44 miles, 2 hours at high intensity. So we're talking about a difference of an hour, and we're talking, so that's duration, and we're talking about low intensity, high intensity, so duration and intensity. Those two factors need to go into your calorie calculation of what you're going to take with you on the bike. I am going out on a zone 2 ride. Okay, how long? 2 hours, 3 hours, 4, 6 hours. And then you do your calculation. I'm going out on a very fast group ride. I bonked the last time I was on this group ride. I need to take X number of calories. It's a 4-hour group ride at literally zone 4, zone 5 the whole time. Whatever it is, right? So that's a different caloric requirement and expenditure, for that matter. All right, so I'm just going to keep reading the text messages that we had, because that'll keep me on task with what I want to talk about. So the fig bar, I kind of guessed at those Costco ones that you get at all the supported events around here, and they're about 200 calories. So if you're going out for 2 hours, you weigh 240 pounds, and you're at a medium to high intensity for those 2 hours, because he said 44 miles, about 2 hours. So that's 20 plus miles per hour, 22 if we do the real, 2 hours. But let's just say it's about 2 hours, so maybe a little more. That's a pretty high caloric expenditure. I know it would be for me if I was trying to do 44 miles in about 2 hours. So 200 calories isn't much for a 240 pound rider. Okay, that's really not much. And plain water, you do you, but generally speaking, I don't like to take plain water on the bike unless I'm just going out on a recovery ride and I'm going to stop for coffee somewhere, or I'm going to have lunch somewhere with my friends and then get back on the bike. I never will miss out on the opportunity to have fuel in my bottles. I just don't understand why anyone just drinks plain water, except those circumstances that I said. Now, oh, by the way, there's going to be a lot of you who say stuff like, I just drink plain water. I've been doing it for 50 years. Great. You keep doing that. I don't know why you clicked on this channel, on this video. Also, yeah, I can do that too. But it depends on the intensity of that ride. I can ride with nothing for many, many hours. And those of you who have ridden with me know that. So it can be done, but does it have to be done? Is it something you do every time? So fueling can help you possibly get more out of your training. So let's get back to this. So anyway, 200 calories for 2 hours is not enough for a 240-pound person. All right, so we're going to keep going on this. And, oh, and then I emphasized to the gentleman that, hey, look, I'm not just selling you product. I wish to give you some advice about either how to use the product or not use the product. Because I said, look, you either, at 240 pounds, high intensity, you either start fueling at 300 calories per hour or learn to go without and become fat adapted, which, you know, I've been on a keto carnivore journey for at least 6 years, 5-6 years. So I don't eat any carbs off of the bike, very, very sparingly. I'm not going to say never, but I rarely eat carbohydrates off the bike. On the bike, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But if I do, obviously I'm going to use my product because I know it's nice and it's clean and it's, you know, it's a better product for that usage. But I wanted to make it clear to this gentleman, you don't have to use my product. You can learn to be fat adapted and maybe, you know, and say the words fat adapted, but that's what I meant. You can go without. All right, let's carry on. We made a couple of jokes about some other stuff. I also asked him if he had a power meter. If you have a power meter, you're able to more accurately document or record and document and then use a perceived effort for your ride. You know, if you're burning 500 kilojoules per hour, 2 or 300 kilojoules per hour, you know the difference of those two, the intensity of those two rides. But also you are getting data on your kJs, on your kilojoules. So you could translate kilojoules to calories and say, okay, I went out on a 3-4 hour ride. I burned either, you know, 1500 kilojoules, 2000 kilojoules. That's either 1500 calories, 2000 calories. Okay, what did I take in? I took in this much. Okay, so the rest either came from fat stores or you underfueled. You have to make that analysis after every ride. How did I feel? So not just your power output and the data, but how did you feel, right? Did you feel like you were on the edge of bonking? Did you feel like you cracked because you didn't bring enough nutrition with you? And then what are you going to do about it the next time, right? So if you keep making the same mistake, how is anyone going to help you, right? All right, so that's what I asked this gentleman. I said, do you ride with a power meter? Keep track of your kilojoules. And then you know how to titrate, right? I went on this ride. He ate this many calories. I didn't feel as powerful, or I didn't feel like I had enough for that sprint at the end of that ride, or at the county sign, or the multiple surges that were going on. I couldn't react. I couldn't respond to the surges within the pack. Or you're riding with your mate, your best friend, and he or she is just putting the screws to you all day, and you're like, God, what's wrong with me? It could be lack of calories. Could be. It may not be at all. You may just be having a bad day, right? We all have those. You just don't want it to happen during a grand tour, like Pogacar. Yeah. So the other thing that I mentioned to him was that each scoop of this is 25 grams of carbs. So I said, well, 3 scoops, 300 calories, about 75 grams of carbs. If you're a keto person, your hair's on fire right now because, 50 grams of carbs and below is what you're trying to stay at if you're on a ketogenic diet. So I wanted to give him some type of perspective. The pros are riding 80 to 100 grams per hour. And if you're watching this a few years from now, they're probably at 120, 130, who knows. But that's what they're riding at. And they're in the 140 to 160 range. I mean, a sprinter is what they call a big guy. He's a big guy for a cyclist. They're like 160 pounds, 165 maybe, right? Unless you're, someone like, I think maybe Van Aert's around, I don't know. Well, whatever he is, you guys can comment down below. But if they're doing that many grams of carbs, their intensity is really high, and they weigh literally 100 pounds less than you, then you need to bring up your game, your calorie game, right? You don't have to use my product. I wish you would, because it's nice and clean, has no flavor, and it's easy to digest. But whatever you use, one of my first interactions with Tommy Southwood was he was having issues with his nutrition, and I said, just pick something you like and eat a lot of it, right? So if it's PB&J, make a lot of PB&J sandwiches and eat those. You don't have to buy a cycling specific sports drink. I talk about it on my channel often that I make these little sandwiches a lot of times to augment even my own nutrition. Little Hawaiian roll sandwiches. Put whatever you want in there. I use cream cheese and jam. Tastes like a jelly donut later on in the ride. All right. So that was that. What else did we talk about here? And at that point was when he actually said, hey, here's a video idea for you. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I just need to do it. And, having a real life person and a real case study is a lot easier than just doing hypothetical situations. So I told him, if you don't mind, I'm going to use you, but I'm just going to call you John Smith. So a very generic name. But the problem isn't generic. I mean, every one of you, I'll do another video, but I honestly think this is the number one reason why people fail at doing endurance events. They don't have their nutrition down. They're puking on the side of the road, or they're bonking from not enough nutrition. If you're having trouble going longer, feeling fantastic at the end of it, then you need to try my product. Or try something else, even if it's not my product. But you need to start fueling. You need to start fueling and start fueling more. These are very generalized statements when I say someone should at least take 200 calories per hour, as much as 300. You need to figure that out for yourself. But you need to start taking more calories if you're bonking and not feeling strong towards the end of your ride. It's the number one reason why I see people failing at endurance events. There were some other things we talked about. I don't know that they have value within this discussion. But I think it's important that I continue. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in winter, and it's zone 2 time. It's also endurance base mile time. This is a good time to do some experimentation with your nutrition. It's a really good time to find out how you feel with X number of calories X duration, at X intensity, so that as spring comes around, you're firing on all cylinders, as they say. I am available to help, but since I don't know you very well, the Q&A is necessary. But then again, it's just a very generalized conversation I'm going to have with you. I strongly recommend that you experiment with all of that and know your body. Know what you can do, what you can get away with, and what you can't get away with. There are ways to do that experimentation like I've been doing. You figure out what works for you. Hey, if you're on a trainer and you're at home, maybe that's a good place to experiment. Okay, I did a 2-hour trainer ride. I was holding my wattage numbers. Everything was great. I'm good for, And most people, by the way, can just fake a 2-hour ride. You don't need nutrition for a 1-hour, hammer fest, hour of power, as I used to call them. You don't need much for that. If you have a decent breakfast before you ride, or you have a nice lunch or something when you get back, a couple of hours on the bike, I guess that's one of those situations. You just drink plain water. You don't need anything. It's only a 2-hour ride. But if you're going out a lot longer, a lot further, a lot more climbing, you should experiment. Anyway, I think that is all for today. Please like and subscribe. I'll have a link down below for my product if you're interested. YouTube viewers, I think it's like 12 or 13, 15% off. I forget what it is. Anyway, there is a discount at some point that I'm offering to YouTube viewers, but just contact me directly. My email will be there, and we'll set you up. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.